Next up, we're going to make a skin salve by infusing it into some oil. Specifically, we're going to use avocado oil. Normally I use grapeseed oil, but the local store didn't have any, so we used what we got. First off, we're going to use Penstemon. Penstemon has a soothing property for skin, a healing property. We're also going to use fringe sage, which is a good topical disinfectant, and some silverleaf potentilla, which normally you would use as a skin wash to help tighten up skin. You just infuse it with water. But we're going to experiment and try infusing it into the oil and see how well it works in an ointment. Alright, so here we've got our mortar and pestle. We're going to work on the Penstemon first. We're just going to use the flowers. We're going to pulverize them. Matt is picking off the flowers right now. We'll use that first, and then we'll use the fringe sage and the potentilla. And we're just going to make a small batch and put it in that little cup and then heat it over a little gas stove. It's got to sit and cook for several hours at a low temperature. So we're going to pulverize all this stuff or bruise it so that the healing properties that are in the plant will be easily, will more easily be infused into the oil, and we can use it on our skin. If you use the plants whole without crushing them up, not all the nutrients or the healing properties will come out very easily. A lot of it will still be left in the plant, or it'll just take a lot longer. So this speeds up the process. So we got the Penstemon in there. Next we're going to do the silverleaf cinquefoil, also known as potentilla. So this is an astringent, so it'll dry out the skin. Again, normally you would use this as a wash, or you'd apply the leaf directly to the skin, but we're going to go ahead and give it a try and put it in our salve and see how well it does. Next we're going to use fringe sage. Fringe sage is an antiseptic.
That smells awesome.
Yeah, antibacterial. So this is the fringe sage flower, the top of that, and then the bottom, the leaves look like that. We got some shorter stuff with some old growth attached to it. Now you can use fringe sage, or you can use sagebrush. Fringe sage is a little bit more mild than the sagebrush, so if you wanted to get a really high-powered antiseptic, then you would use sagebrush if you had it available. We don't have sagebrush up here at this end of elevation, so we're going to use this fringe sage. Alright, so all those plants pulverized down into, how many ounces is that? Put your hand out there.
See the side there. Loosely, that would be about
12 ounces.
A little under 12, maybe close to 10.
Yeah, so about 10 or 12 ounces of plants, with the most of it being sage. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this avocado oil and cover those plants with it. So there you go. There's your avocado oil.
All right.
Well, depending on your thermometer, I'm using this big old thing, and we need about 2 inches worth of oil in order to submerge this so it'll take an accurate reading. Alright, here's our concoction. Looks tasty. So we're going to put this at low heat, about 140, 150, and let it just cook for several hours. Then we're going to strain off all this plant matter, and we should be left with a good deal of that oil. And then we're going to mix it with beeswax until it's the consistency that we want it. So we're going to throw this on the stove, and then while this is cooking, we're going to start some tinctures. Warm. You can do this over a campfire, but it takes a lot of work to regulate that fire to keep it at a constant temperature. Directly over that flame, this is too hot, so I set it off to the side. Got my thermometer here, and just check this every once in a while. Give it a good stir, and then I want to make sure that that is about 140, 150 degrees. If it's too cool, then we would just move it over into the center. But we're just going to bake this for a few more hours. Alright, here's our oil concoction. We're making into a salve. We probably cooked that for about 6 hours. I got a little setup here. We're going to strain that. Notice I don't have a cork in it. We're not worried about it straining through slowly. We're just trying to get the plant material out of there. So go ahead, Matt, pour that in there. So coffee filter in there.
I'm missing the filter there. There we go.
It's tasty, doesn't it? Careful, don't hit that too hard.
Yeah, I don't want to break it. Or dent your cup.
We're worried about the bottle shattering. Alright, so we're just going to let that strain out. Looks like we got a little plant material in there, but that's okay. We'll pick that out later or strain it again.
Ready? We have to run this through another coffee filter. I think I'm getting some material.
Alright, we squeezed as much pulp out of there as we possibly could, giving it one final strain so we get every last little bit of plant material out of there. And then when we're done, we're going to add the beeswax to it so it'll be the consistency of a salve, so we'll apply it to our skin. The next thing we're going to do is put beeswax in that salve. So we're going to heat that salve back up so it's hot enough to put the beeswax in and melt it. So you can go ahead and put some in there. No real science to the beeswax. You just want to put enough in there. So we're going to heat that up to where it'll melt. And then we got to let it cool off. And actually, I'm going to put a little bit more in there. But that's what it's going to start off to look like. Alright, so here's our skin salve. You just add beeswax and let it cool until it comes to the consistency that you want. You can see I can rub that on just like that. You can also, instead of letting the whole thing cool, you put a stick in there And then pull the stick out and let the stick cool, and you can see if it's the right consistency. But that's about how you want it, just so you can take that little bit and smear it onto your skin. That's it. So that's how you make salve. So all we have left to do is to warm this back up and pour it into whatever kind of container you want. You can put it in some Tupperware like that. You can put it in a little metal tin. You can put it in a glass jar. Whatever tickles your fancy. But there's your salve. Hopefully you learned something, and I'll see you again next time.